Hey there. Over the last couple weeks, I have been a little bit disappointed by the Amber Steel wheel lists I've seen top 8ing 1Ks, 2Ks, and larger tournaments. It has seemed to me like people have been unwilling to try innovating with the list, and I think that there's definitely room for improvement here, so over the last couple days, I took my stab at trying to tune this list for the current metagame, and I have a list here that I really like and I think is really well positioned, and there are definitely some controversial decisions in this list, so let's hop into it. Starting with some of the obvious stuff, I've got 4 Cinderella, 4 Stitch, 4 Queen, 4 Ariel, 4 Shift Queen, 4 Shift Stitch. I think those are basically immutable. I would never touch those numbers. They make the deck run, and I think that it's pretty obvious why they're all there. Then Simba, I think you could cut Simba. I like 3 copies of Simba, but its primary role is obviously just blocking Stitch Rockstar. I think that just throwing it in play as a sacrificial lamb to block a Maui is its kind of primary role. And if you don't think that's important, I could easily see trimming these numbers, maybe going up more on these Cinderellas. I've gone up to 2 copies of this Cinderella, and the main reason for that is to loot away the uninkable songs when they're bad. Primarily, Grab Your Sword is definitely down in my estimation, and there are a lot of situations and matchups where it's not super great, so having one extra way to loot it away is pretty nice. I think the first controversial thing here is that I have exactly 1 copy of Rapunzel, which maybe looks like blasphemy, but I have found that your characters almost never have damage marked on them, so it's really difficult to get good Rapunzel value in this format. I think obviously the upside is there. When it does work, it's really, really good, but it just doesn't happen often enough, and I just want to use my slots on cards that are consistently very powerful, and Rapunzel is inconsistently very powerful. And I've mostly replaced Rapunzel with Beast for the most part at this point. This 5-drop Beast is a card that's gone way up in my estimation, and at first I didn't really understand why you would want to play it. Like, it's kind of slow, it's kind of clunky. Those things are still true. This is a slow card, it's a clunky card. Yes, you will sometimes ink it, and by sometimes I mean most of the time. It's definitely a very inkable card, but it plays an extremely important role, and that is in the Ruby control lists. Against those matchups, the hardest card for you to beat with this deck is Be Prepared, and the way you usually beat a Be Prepared is by having a Rockstar Stitch in hand with 1s and 2s to pair with it to rebuild the board immediately after the board wipe. Well, you only have 4 copies of Rockstar Stitch in your deck, and so you won't have it all the time, and you certainly are going to have a hard time doing that 2 times with Rockstar Stitch. So what Beast gives you is another play that is really good post Be Prepared. And so if they Be Prepared on 7, you can play a Beast and a 1 or a 2 drop, and the Ruby Amethyst control deck and the Popsicle deck rarely have a way to actually deal with that, because they can't Maleficent it yet. They'll only be on 8 ink, and so you're almost always going to get a draw 2 out of this Beast, and it still quests, and it still threatens to draw more cards in future turns, and has to be answered. So I think that that's this card's primary role, is basically rebuilding post Be Prepared when you don't have a Rockstar Stitch. So yeah, I mean, as far as a draw engine, it's just way more consistent than Rapunzel, and like, most of the time you're going to have Rapunzel, you can't do anything with it. You could just play a Beast. It threatens to draw cards immediately. And yeah, it's really nice, I think. Also, it's a 5-drop, so it sings your 5-drop songs, which is not worthless. Another controversial decision, I think, is 2 Tinkerbell. And the reason is that this deck, with these additional cheap removal spells, is so good against aggro that you just don't need this card anymore. This isn't really part of your primary game plan, and when I say primary game plan, I mean playing an early shift character or an Ariel and then singing a whole new world after emptying as much of your hand as possible. So Tinkerbell plays absolutely no part in that game plan. It's primarily here for the mirror match when they go wide to sort of catch up, and against aggro. And I just don't think the mirror match revolves as much around sweepers, and I think that with these removal spells, you're so good against aggro already that you just don't need this card, and I would rather play something that makes my deck more consistent rather than something that, you know, improves a matchup that I almost never lose anyway. I think the next most controversial decision is probably going to be the 0 copies of Surfer Stitch. And the reason is because I think I've pretty much already explained it. It's basically the same reason that I'm playing 1 copy of Rapunzel and 3 copies of Beast. It's that Surfer Stitch is awkward against Be Prepared. If you can play it before Be Prepared, it's okay. It lets you commit something to the board and sort of replaces itself +1. It's decent, but you don't really want to be playing a 7-drop into a Be Prepared that you expect. So I would much rather commit nothing and then have this Beast for after the Be Prepared. I feel like that just sets up so much better and doesn't force you to commit as many threats to the board. And it's just not as consistent. Like, you can play Beast earlier, you can play Beast on turn 4 with a Lantern, and Surfer Stitch, it's super slow, and the format is so fast that I don't think that that's where I want to be anymore. Now, in some metagames, and only you know what your local metagame looks like if you're going to League, yeah, I could definitely see some copies of Surfer Stitch, but I think that I would just rather be on the Beast plan at this point. I'm playing 4 copies of Cinderella. I think that this card can be answered sometimes by something like World's Greatest Criminal Mind, but if they don't have an answer, this card takes over the game. And you can't hide from it, because there are so many songs that this can challenge basically any character in play every single turn. And it lets you take out, threats with Ward, lets you take out, the discard deck often has a lot of threats that they want to hide and not exert. And like, you can't hide from Cinderella. In the mirror, it's very, very good. Basically, if they don't have one of their 1 to 3 copies of World's Greatest Criminal Mind, this is just going to win the mirror on its own. Yeah, just all around very good card. There's been an uptick in a Amethyst Steel deck that does not have a good answer to this at all, and it will take over that matchup. Obviously, it's very good against, like, the Emerald Steel discard deck. As I mentioned, you can hit the ready characters, but also they have no good way to answer this, and they're not playing very many bounce effects in that deck anymore. So I think that this is my late game character of choice, and you have so much card velocity, right? Like, you've got cantrips here, you've got a whole new world, just plenty of ways to draw cards in the deck that I just think that I'd rather be doing this than Surfer Stitch as well. Onto the song package. I am playing 8 copies of the 3-drop Steel songs, and I think of all of the perhaps controversial decisions I've made, this is the one I would strongly urge you to try yourself. These cards are crazy, and they give you a ton of removal and insane card velocity post a whole new world. In fact, you can play a whole new world 1 turn, untap, and then basically empty your entire hand by playing these songs like these for free, and then play another whole new world, and just like chain full hands of cards every single turn when the deck is really going off. And I think it's just amazing. Obviously, both of these can be sung on turn 2 with Cinderella, but not just with Cinderella, also with a Shift Queen. And I think that that's maybe something that goes unnoticed by some people when they're thinking about these cards, is that yes, you can play them on turn 2 with a Shift Queen, and this is often good on turn 2 with a Shift Queen. I've killed tons and tons of Pascals on turn 2 with Strength of a Raging Fire off Shift Queen, and yeah, it's just very, very good. In the mirror, this is how you win the mirror, in my opinion. If you thought you were going to be playing all mirrors, I would probably find some ways to stick Fire the Cannons in this deck somewhere too, like 1 or 2 copies. But if you're on the play and you have 8 copies of these cards, turn 1 Cinderella is nigh unbeatable. I think that oftentimes when you play turn 1 Cinderella in the mirror and you have 8 of these cards, your opponent basically never builds a board position for the entire game. You basically snipe every single character they play, then wheel while they have no characters in play, and now you have more removal spells, so they cannot build a board at any point ever, and it's really, really fun when it works out that way. But yeah, I'm really high on this. I'm down to 2 copies of World's Greatest Criminal Mind. You can't go to 0 because you need it to take out things like Cinderella. Cinderella is very strong against this deck. It's kind of the only way to do it. If you have 7 characters, you can do it with Strength of a Raging Fire, but that's really, really not where you want to be. And it's inkable. So, you know, it's just another target for Ariel, and you can ink it if it's bad. I'm playing only 3 copies of Grab Your Sword. I've already mentioned that I think Grab Your Sword in this metagame is much, much weaker than it used to be. The mirror revolves around it a lot less, and yeah, I mean, you have so much removal down here that a sweeper later in the game is just not as necessary. I've gone back up to 4 lanterns, and that's just to improve the power level, the explosiveness of this deck. I think, you know, I just want to double down on doing what this deck does well, and I think Lantern's a big part of that. You know, like these songs that you can play for free, having lanterns in play when you play a whole new world just lets you empty your hand again and you know, restart the process, which is awesome. But yeah, I'll play a couple games for you and show you how the new list goes. Hello there, everybody. We're here playing some games with my newly tuned Amber Steel list, and I really like where it's at right now. It's been very consistent for me. There aren't too many changes, but I think the ones that I've made have really upped the deck's consistency and power level. The card velocity that you can achieve by singing songs now is just completely absurd. I mean, it was before too, but it's even crazier now. And yeah, let's just see how it plays out. Okay, playing against some purple deck. Archimedes makes me think some sort of Ruby Amethyst deck, but it could be a lot of things. I'm going to lead. I have a shift already, so I'm not really looking for a queen, so I can ink this queen pretty safely. I think I'm going to lead on Cinderella in case I draw a song. I apologize in advance. I do have a cough. I picked up a cold over Thanksgiving, so it's been a bit of a nagging cough I've been dealing with. I'll try to mute it in editing, but you might see me cough. So, sorry. Okay, so this is some blurple something. I don't even know. Because I think their deck's going to be what has no sweepers and is likely going to be fast, I think that I'm going to play 2 1-drops here and just try, like if I have to ink Stitch next turn so that I can play my Aerial, I think that's fine, but I don't, my other option is basically to play Stitch and hold on to the Queen and Simba as ink, but I think I'm willing to run the risk of not drawing an inkable next turn to just get on the board as fast as I possibly can. It would be nice to have the 5-drop Queen now, but I don't think, like, I don't even know what I would do next turn if I had it. Like, you know, what would I have inked? I think I might have ended up inking the 5-drop Queen anyway, just because I'd rather have the Stitch. Being on the draw against Aggro is not where you want to be, but luckily this deck is really, really powerful against the aggressive decks. Something like a Grab Your Sword looks like it'll do quite a bit of work here. Alright. This is totally fine, by the way. It still gets swept up by Grab Your Sword, and that Cinderella was not integral to our game plan. I want to see what I draw here. The answer is nothing. So, as far as order, Cinderella first is probably correct, and then I doubt the rest of this matters, but I'm going to hold on to my Stitch. Yeah, I think I'm going to trade the Queen here, and I will eat this Pascal if they have, like, 1-drop, Mim, take out my Stitch. I think that's fine. There's no guarantee that I'm going to get to play this next turn anyway, because if I draw an uninkable, then I can't. May as well get in while it's good. Prince Charming. Okay. Well, we're sitting all right here. So the question is, do we sing this Grab Your Sword to do 2 damage? And I think no. I think I'd rather quest with Stitch than do that. So I'm going to just do this. Alright. It's a decent hand. And again, I'm going to quest with Stitch if they want to play. If they want to quest with this, play Mim, bounce it back to their hand, and then trade with Stitch. Totally fine with me. But yeah, a couple here. A couple song removal spells here is really nice. Allows us to catch up very quickly. Eye of Fates does not bother me at all. And if they don't do anything else, I'm just going to trade Stitch into Prince Charming and then draw 3. Yeah. It's not looking too great for them over there. I'm going to do it with Lantern to get the Lantern in play. This Queen is not super great when you're not shifting it. I'd rather have the other cards in my hand, I think, since the 2-drops draw with Stitch, and Ariel is obviously amazing in this deck. And I'm just gonna no, I was thinking about shooting their Maleficent. Maybe I should, so that they don't get value out of Eye of Fates this turn. Okay, I convinced myself. This prevents 3 lore. Obviously, the Maleficent dies easily, but they could easily protect it with something like a Madam Mim. I think maybe saving the 3 lore is just worth it. But yeah, so Strength of a Raging Fire is a card that's really, really impressed me since the start of the format. I was thinking that we would need more World's Greatest Criminal Mind for the mirror match to take out this Cinderella, but it turns out that this actually can take out Cinderella some percentage of the time, and there just aren't enough targets for World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Okay. I want to see if I can hit another song. Again, we have all 8 of the 3-drop steel removal spells, so this Ariel is actually quite likely to hit one. That would allow us to wrath their board. Okay, we missed, but that's alright. We know that there probably aren't any songs on the bottom, so I think maybe like this order is good. Then I'm going to draw some cards with my Stitch. That one, not super great. I think I want to loot. So I'm going to ink this, since I don't think it's going to be good in this matchup. Again, they have no sweepers, so I can just sort of... Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. Don't think I'm going to need this game at this point. Now what we do is we just destroy everything, and we should win pretty easily from here. Don't quite have lethal, since I can only get to plus 11. And none of that is scary. We can just... All right, and they concede. All right, this is a nice quick win there. This hand has potential. It does need a shift queen. I think I'm going to ship, because I have the whole new world, I'm going to get rid of the Cinderella to more aggressively look for my shift. Yeah, I think this should be good. All right, and we do hit a shift, which is great. No removal spell to go with it, but that's okay. You can't have everything all the time. Greetings, RMB. You might be in a video. Because I have an amazing hand, I'm going to ship this 2-drop and probably play 2 2-drops on turn 2, depending on what he does. If he plays Cinderella specifically, I might shift first so that I don't get crushed by Storm Rage on. Honestly, I still might just... No! I was not prepared for the fire of the cannons. And he had a smash, too. Oh, no. I don't like the way this is looking. Well, worst case scenario, I do have Ariel to sing. If, say, a second fire of the cannons happened here. Oh my god. Okay, okay, R&B. You've got the sauce. I get it. I get it. He already inked a smash, so there's actually a decent chance that this Ariel gets smashed here. But that's okay. Because I have to do something. No. Alright. I get to sing my song. Ooh, and I get a shift stitch. Hard to complain about that. Got a Flavershem out of there. Not a bad one. And I will just quest. I think my stitch should be safe for the turn. I guess they could let it go, but that's okay. I would get 2 ink out of it. Fishbone Quill. A decent response. We're going to want to get this big Cindy in play to play around the steel damage. But that's still a couple turns out. Oof. Ramping all the way up. Okay, I like that. That actually saves us a turn on the play Big Cindy plan. I doubt I'm going to need these. I guess he could have Big Goofy. But one is good enough for that. Let's just say 1 is good enough for that. What am I worried about here? Grab your sword. If he plays Grab Your Sword, I can just play Big Cindy next turn. It's not amazing. I guess what I'm considering is whether or not I should sing this A Whole New World. I think the answer is no. Specifically, like, Grab Your Sword plus Way to Kill Stitch plus Big Hades follow-up would be really good, but I'm not gonna worry too much about that for now. All right, that's the start. You do get to make this trade here. Okay, there's a bell. Again, I don't think World's Greatest Criminal Mind is great in this matchup. You know, it could pair well with the Queen specifically, and I do have 3 of these, so let's do that. That seems fine. They're not going to trade with my Stitch using their bell. If they have a wheel here, then they're free to use it. That's fine. They'd have to hardcast it. Doesn't bother me at all. Let it go. Fair enough. What's the last card? Is it ink? It's not ink yet. I think I'm just happy to quest. I have no interest in wheeling. make them wheel if they want to wheel. Because they have to hardcast it, then I get all my ink, all my characters. Big Cindy? Okay, well, I've got this, so... Okay, this is looking pretty good for us. I'm just going to hardcast some removal spells. Pew. Do that. No. Should I? Well, I have to now. It's fine. Like, there's no universe in which I need all of them, so I guess it's fine. Like, they're gonna wheel. Like, that's their one way out of this game. So, all right, we get the well played. It's a good game. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. You're awesome. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment about what you think of the new list. I'm really, really curious to see what the community thinks of the changes I've made. In particular, cutting most of the Rapunzels and the Surfer Stitches.